You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sarah J. Loureiro.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. I am beaming here. I am so happy to be recording another episode. It's been a while for me, although you've been getting them consistently. But this is the power of systems in your business, right? And I just realized how much I love recording these for you. So if you have been loving the episodes as well, just let me know. I would love to hear from you. So let's talk about how to become the client who gets amazing results. I think there are a lot of people who need to hear this and perhaps need a little bit of tough love and also a little bit of empowerment and just positive juju flowing for them, because I get a lot of clients telling me, I want to be the next success story. I really, really want to be the person who goes all the way and hits the top. And what I've realized over the years as well is I'm typically the client for my coaches and mentors who gets all of the results. I'm like the poster board client on all of their websites. And a part of that is, there's so many different factors to that. And obviously there's some factors that we cannot control, and I don't want to take away from that. And so I will end up talking about that a little bit as well, but there are definitely a lot of factors that you can control. And I wanted to take this opportunity to create a podcast about really everything that you can control and how you can empower yourself to actually be that client who is the one who's on all the testimonials and the one who really makes the most out of the container that you decide to invest in. An important thing that I wanted to mention here as well is that sometimes you will get those results, but not necessarily within the container that you're investing in. And so what I always tell my clients, because most of my clients are coaches, is to really think about how your clients' lives are going to change even 1 year from now, 2, 3, 5 years from now. I'm still implementing things that I learned from coaches that I signed up with in 2015, 2016. In my business. And even if I can think to my first therapy sessions, those were like probably 10, 15 years ago. And I am still benefiting from those as well. And so beyond just being the poster child or, the testimonial, how can you also really think about your next investment that you're going to be creating in your business or in your life in a new container as something that's going to be a lifelong investment? So not just something where you want to sprint and get really big results quickly, although we can talk about that as well, but also view it as the marathon, view it as something that is lifelong. So one of the first things that I want to talk about that's more of a practical thing in terms of being the client who gets the results is time. And not necessarily timing. I've seen people who have approached programs and are just like, you know what, I have a lot going on, but at the same time, I know that I need to do this. And they make sacrifices with everything else that they have going on in order to place programs as a priority. And I do feel like that is really important. And when I talk to clients in terms of time management, one of the very first things that I say is, what do you need to start saying no to in order for you to really say yes to your dreams and say yes to your goals? Because if you're in corporate or if you're in any type of 9-to-5, you're going to have someone pulling at you all the time, especially if you're really good, especially if you're the type of employee who is always there for everyone. If you're the type of wife, daughter, sibling, cousin, friend, you name it, where everyone is coming to you and asking you to do them a ton of favors, and you know that technically you don't really have to be doing that much and giving that much, that's also another area of your life that you can reassess, where you can start saying no to some of those things, or you can start delegating some of those things to someone else in your family or someone else in your circle. And that's also going to help you to really prioritize yourself and prioritize the time that you need to take to step into a new container in order to do the work necessary to get the results necessary. And oftentimes when we step into these containers or we step into new coaching relationships, but we're still so bombarded with everything else that's going on in our lives, what ends up happening is you're being cut too thin in too many different directions. And so even when I was in my 9 to 5, one really hard thing that I had to start doing when I knew I was at the end of it is I had to stop volunteering myself for every single new project that was even exciting to me. Even if it was something that was really exciting, but I knew it was going to take a lot of overtime to complete, I had to start saying no to that. I had to start not desiring to be the best person in the room in every single room that I was in, because I knew that by doing that I wasn't going to have any space or energy left over to really dedicate myself to the things that I knew I needed to become a priority. And so I even quit a really, really big and important volunteer job that I had for myself when I first started investing in my business, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do both of those things really well. And I would rather get rid of one of them and really let it go so that I can fully step into the other one. And so it's not necessarily about making sure that it's the quote unquote the right timing, because I also see so many coaches out there who I talk to who are like, it's not the right time, but then it never becomes the right time because they're never giving up another aspect of what they're doing in order to fully step into what it is that they want and who it is that they want to become. So really making sure that you're managing your time effectively is so helpful to make sure that you are prioritizing the business, even if it's just for a phase, even if it's just a season. I know it's so helpful to even think about it as something that it's not necessarily that you're going to have to do that forever. Maybe eventually you are going to be able to come back to the volunteering. Maybe eventually you are going to be able to come back to doing work part-time for someone else. But especially within that tipping point between going all in your business and quitting your job, that's a huge tipping point where there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. And it's not that it's not doable, and it's not that you have to wait for a good time, because to be honest with you, if you're always so used to bombarding your schedule, there's never going to be a good time because that's your default. It's so much more about prioritizing your time and really letting go of and saying no to the things that are no longer going to be the top priorities for you, even if it's just within the season of investing in a container, because you know that you want to go all in that. The next thing that I think is so important when really thinking about becoming that client who gets all of the results is making sure that you're choosing a container and that you're actually choosing a coach who's going to be results focused. And I think that this is a really unfortunate part of the coaching space. I think there are a lot of people who are really under delivering in terms of the amount of knowledge that they could share, in terms of the actual programs that they have, in terms of what the programs and what the programs have inside of them will actually help people with. I know that I've helped a lot of clients now who have invested in other programs that are really, really good for energy and mindset, but didn't actually have any of the strategic things in place to help them to get clients. And so although they had really stellar mindsets and they had like great energy about them, they didn't have any of the tactical strategies to get clients. And so that's why they were kind of still at ground zero, so to speak, with being able to grow and scale their businesses. And so it's really important to also see, what is this person and what is this container offering me? And how is this exactly what I know I need? That's so important. I think that that's something that often gets overlooked with a lot of like the flashiness that goes on within the online space. And so my next point with all of this, and this is actually something that one of my very good business friends told me about a few years ago that I just couldn't get over, because sometimes I kind of kick myself because I'm like, oh my goodness, I did everything that my mentor told me to do. And now I'm kind of going back and doing the things that I feel like I intuitively wanted to do. And to a certain extent, I do believe that a coach should really help you with your own intuition and not just by guiding you with a cookie cutter strategy. 100%. And this is what I ultimately implement with my clients, is helping them to have a strategy, but also making sure that that strategy is feeling good to them and there's not the resistance to it. However, one thing that my friend mentioned to me that is just so stuck in my brain is that one of the reasons why I get such great results is because I implement, and I implement from a place of trust. And if I'm going to invest in a new coaching container or a new mentorship program, I need to make sure that I am trusting that person 100% with what it is that they are giving me and the information that they're giving me. And when I trust them 100%, without resistance and without the, okay, well, this doesn't feel in alignment, or, like this feels scary to me, or I'm not sure if I want to do this part. And either one, have a communication about things that just really don't feel like they're in my sphere, or, two, say, okay, this might not be for me, but I'm still going to try it. That helps you so much more than going into a container and making, 1,000 excuses for why you can't do something. And I say that with some tough love, just because I feel like there are people who are investing in containers and then just kind of go through so much resistance to everything that they're being taught. And within that resistance, they're self-sabotaging, because essentially, if you're going into a new container, especially for business strategy, and you're not implementing what the person is, advising you to implement or working on with you to implement, then it's kind of like, well, why are you in that container in the first place? Like, why did you invest in that person and fully trust in that person to help you get the desired results that you want? And the problem too with not going all in is sometimes our resistance is fear. It's not about the actual strategy that the person's telling you about. It's fear. And by doing the strategy, you start to become someone different, and you start to actually recreate your identity, which is also a really important process of stepping into and becoming the person who gets really great results, and becoming that CEO or that person and that leader that you've always aspired to become, is by doing things differently and also stepping outside of your comfort zone. And so by really trusting the person who is guiding you, it's just so helpful. And I find that either it's always my clients who either, one, have the least amount of resistance, or two, explain the resistance and open up about the resistance and are willing to work through the resistance. Those are usually the ones who end up implementing and getting the fastest results. And I found that that's been the same for me personally, because of the fact that I go into things and I commit to doing the things that the people who I am investing in are helping me to do and to implement. And a lot of people could suggest that that's just doing the work. It's not necessarily just doing the work, because if it was just about doing the work, everyone would do it, right? But a lot of the reasons why people don't do the work is because they feel resistance around the work, and because there's a lot of limiting beliefs around the work. But if they're never going to voice that, the mentor is never going to know that that's a part of the resistance. It's also on the mentor to be asking these important questions to clients. But really, at the end of the day, each client needs to stick up for themselves, and each client really does need to make sure that they are giving the container their all. And I think that this is something that ends up happening, is that people kind of go into containers and they're not fully invested into them, and they're not placing them as priorities. And so those would be two suggestions that I would have in terms of, really facing your fears head on, and really facing your resistance head on, and asking yourself, where all of that is coming from. And making sure that you're even investing in a program, if you know that you have a lot of resistance, investing in a program where you know that you're going to have the support there inside of the program from someone who's going to help you with that. And it's so that it's not just a cookie cutter program. It's not just a, hey, implement all of this and I'm going to get my assistant to kind of help you with the data points, but it's also someone who is really going to help you with understanding why you may not have been implementing in the past. I think that that is so important. And before I go into my last big tip, I also wanted to mention here that sometimes there are really crazy life circumstances that end up happening to us that don't allow us to become, like the client who achieves the amazing testimonial within the short period of time that they step into a container. And I think that if you've ever faced those crazy circumstances, and you need to be honest with yourself as to whether or not those circumstances were really like a legitimate reason why you weren't able to finish something. But you also need to cut yourself some slack in those areas and know and understand that you didn't have the opportunities at the time that you really wanted to have in order to create those results that you wanted to create. And that was, of course, a season in your life, and that can change, right? It's not just that your business is broken or that you can never get back up and, invest in another container and that new container is going to work better for you, because every single step in your life is a completely different opportunity. It's a completely different time. I've invested in mentors before where I didn't get the results that I wanted, and I've invested in mentors where I got outstanding results that are more than what I've wanted. And I'm never going to allow one specific circumstance to dictate my entire future, to dictate the entire rest of my life. And if you have had anything that's kind of been a block in your journey, just allow yourself to feel into and understand that that's a phase. It's a season. It's not going to be, that's not permanently your life unless you decide and you just kind of throw in the towel and allow that to dictate the rest of your life. At any point in time, you can decide to turn that around. And maybe it does need to be a point in time where you just need to sit in those issues. Let's say, for example, if you're really ill, if you have a chronic illness and you have a flare-up of the chronic illness, or, you have something terrible happen to someone that you know and you need to be there for them. Those things are circumstantial, and they're also not going to be forever, but they could put a damper in your plans. And if that happens, it's always so helpful to understand that you don't need to sit there. That doesn't need to become your full-time reality. It's just your current reality, and it will end soon. And I think that that's also really important to state, because sometimes there are unforeseen external obstacles that really come in our way. So if that has happened to you, I don't want this to be only an episode that's just kind of like push through it and you can do it and, nothing's actually wrong with you. That is a huge part of really getting out of things and coaching, but sometimes these circumstances are really outside of our control as well. So I wanted to throw that in there just in case anyone who's listening to this is going through one of those things. And once again, like I said, feel like you just need to be really honest with yourself if that is the case, or if there's something else that's going on that's still allowing you to stay in your excuses. But moving on from here, the last piece of, really how to make sure that you become that client who gets the results that you want is understanding that how you implement what is given to you inside the container that you decide to choose, it all depends on who you're becoming as a process to really hitting your goals. And not necessarily focusing on your goals themselves, but focusing on the activities that you need to go through, that you need to implement in order to do that. Who are you stepping into? What are the areas of yourself that you need to let go of? How do you need to transform? What are the specific excuses even that you need to leave behind? Stepping into your leadership is a process of embodiment. And so even asking yourself, what does the next level version of me do? How do they think about themselves? What are they investing in? What are they purchasing? How are they spending their time? And really starting to step into those feelings now can help you so much in the activities that you're producing in the current moment. And of course, the level of energy that you have when you're producing activities now is going to create the outputs to get those results and to ultimately become that client who becomes the person who has the amazing testimonial. So I hope that all of that helped. It's definitely helped me to really put all of this into perspective and, of course, share with you all of these tips that I've kind of come into after investing in coaches for the past 7 years. And if I could go from being someone who would get no results and had so many money mindset issues and so much resistance to now being the person who kind of implements and becomes the client who's on all of the testimonials, the website, all of that kind of stuff, then you can too, because at any point in time, we can truly change our identity and kind of change the trajectory of what we're doing. It just starts with the decisions that you decide to make today. So I hope all of this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me. If you liked this episode, it would mean the world to me if you shared it or left a positive review. You can always follow up with me on Instagram. It's at Sarah without an H, J Loureiro. That's Loureiro. Tell me how much you enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarahjloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.